And then we're just going to go off and have some fun.
Yep, have some fun, have a good time.
That's what it's all about.
Talk about
Seeing we got
Jets.
levels, we're already one step ahead. So we're good there. I don't got to reset anything. Just going to hit this record button. No, not that button. I don't even know what that button was. We're going to leave that button where it's at. Hit the music. It's good to be back. Back for a second night in a row. Back with my cousin Michael.
How you doing?
How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Here to talk some football. Is it football? It's football.
Football season, man.
Football.
Can you believe it's already week 6?
No, I can't. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's already week 6 already. And speaking of it, I mean, we talked a couple months ago. And when we talked, it was in reference to the upcoming season. And you, my friend, had very, very high hopes for this team. I mean, you kind of set the bar pretty high. Expectations were very high. And I just don't think this Jets team is where you expected them to be. So with that being said, I'm going to let you run for a minute because I got to hear this from everything going on. I want you to just hit me with it. All your thoughts, Jets, right now. Give it to me.
So there's a lot, right? So back in February or March, I can't remember when it was, but there was a report that came out, an athletic report or whatever news source came out with a report that said that there were 30 separate sources inside the Jets facility that came out and said that upper management or the higher ups in the organization, everything was just, there was no control, there was no nothing, everyone was running wild. And for the longest time, a lot of people were like, this kind of seems like, like, okay, come on. Like, who really put this out? Like 30 separate people came and got together and unanimously said that the organization is off the rails. But then you fast forward to the end of week 5 in what's supposed to be an all-in year, and you fire your head coach. And there's so many layers as to why it doesn't make sense, because the leash that Woody Johnson had on Robert Saleh, if it was this short, if it was a 5-week leash, why didn't you just pick up a head coach at the end of last season? Like, Eric, look outside right now. The leaves are still green, right? Like we're not even into halfway through the season. You think like when a coaching change happens, it's halfway through the year. Your team didn't make the playoffs. You want to blow it up from the studs. Then you fire the head coach and bring in an interim. But the Jets are playing for first place on Monday night. So to fire the head coach at this point doesn't make any sense. Now, 2 things can be true at the same time. 1, firing Robert Saleh doesn't fix any of the miscues that are happening on offense. That's true. Also, you needed to fire Robert Saleh because he doesn't know how to manage a football game, right? For 3 years, he has no idea how to manage the clock, right? And your players on your team feed off of the energy of your football coach, right? Look at Dan Campbell. Guy's crazy. He cuts down trees by punching them. Like he's insane. And the line...
Not to cut you off, it reminds me in high school, we had a football coach in high school who ran outside and tackled a tree.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he did. It was a small tree, but he went and he tackled it and ripped it out of the ground. Like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, you feed off of that energy.
Carl's in the chat. I think he would remember that. You can fact check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, even Timmy, because they both played high school ball, I'm pretty sure they could fact check me, but I believe one of the coaches ran out and tackled a tree. They're going to fact check me, I'm sure. But go ahead.
Fact check and make sure he tackled a tree. But going back to that, right? Like, you feed off of the energy of your head coach. And every time that the camera panned over to Robert Saleh when he was on the sideline, it was nothing. He wasn't talking to a player. He wasn't talking to a coach. He was just staring at nothing. He was never coaching anyone up. Sometimes if there was a big play, someone would run off the sideline. He'd give him the pat on the back. But there was no fire. And when the Jets hired him 3.5 years ago, he was that fiery guy as the DC out in San Francisco. And I don't know where it changed. For me personally, I think it's when they had reset number 2 with Zach Wilson, which is a wild statement to say. But after reset number 2 with Zach Wilson, I think that's when he was like, all right, like the lights might be too bright here. So we're just going to go, we're going to work, we're going to coach, but whatever happens, happens. But it makes, it again, doesn't make sense because you're talking about not even just me, every person that talked about the Jets saying this was supposed to be an all-in year, right? Firing your coach week 5 is a reactive move. You can't be reactive and all in. That doesn't make sense. If you wanted to be all in, you should have been proactive and make the right decisions beforehand. But now, dude, what head coach has been fired from a position, an interim coach comes in, and the team makes the playoffs? I'm talking to you a couple months ago about how the expectation is to win a home playoff game, play 2 playoff games, and go to the Super Bowl. And now, in history in the NFL, there's never been an interim coach to come in and win the playoffs, and this all comes from the top. This comes from Woody Johnson. The problem, what is so staggering about it is it almost feels like there was a lot of rumors going around of Aaron Rodgers has all the control in the building. And Woody Johnson was like, watch this. Watch what I'm going to do right now. Because from what I read with, the articles that leaked yesterday and today about the firing, Joe Douglas had no idea. He found out 15 minutes before, and Jeff Ulbrich, who's the interim now, which I want to say, by the way, I think he's going to be awesome, but, well, not yet. Not yet. Joe Douglas found out like 15 minutes before. And Jeff Ulbrich found out on a phone call the night before. Is this Woody Johnson saying like, no, I'm the big dog in the house? And this all like comes full circle because 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when Robert Saleh was hired, the active GM for the Jets was Christopher Johnson. Because Woody Johnson was the sitting UK ambassador when Donald Trump was president.
Ambassador Johnson.
Ambassador Johnson. Well, the election is in a freaking month. And if Trump wins again, not trying to get political, I'm really not, but if Trump wins again, he's the sitting ambassador again. So Christopher Johnson makes the head coach hire again. It doesn't make sense. Christopher Johnson, like my brother, Joe, he asked me, he said, yo, Mike, I'm going away for the weekend. Can you watch my cats while I'm gone? Sure, not a problem. That's what Woody Johnson did with the Jets to Christopher Johnson. It's clearly his side gig because Woody Johnson's real name is Robert Wood Johnson. Okay? He's good, right? He's good. Focus on baby powder. Focus on Gold Bomb. You gotta sell the team because it's year over year over year of we're going to rebrand, we're going to get new jerseys, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. But when it comes to actually formulating a good football team from GM to your head coach and everyone down, Woody Johnson ultimately is making all of the decisions, and he's got the final say because he was the one that came out and said yesterday, firing Robert Saleh was solely my intention and my decision. Like, what? Week 5? Like, right now, right? Right now, the San Francisco 49ers are 2-3. Okay? We're not hitting the panic button over there. 2 different coaches, 2 different teams. I totally get it. But you're battling for first place on Monday night. Like, you're playing for first place in the division. Now, do I think that they should be 2-3? No, they should definitely be better. But for the Broncos game, right, and the Vikings game, that's what you traded for Aaron Rodgers for. You gave him the ball. with a minute and a half left, 2 timeouts or whatever the situation looked like. That's what you traded for Aaron Rodgers for. Now, the Vikings game, playing across the pond, still haven't connected with Garrett Wilson, right? So that's staggering. And against the Broncos, your kicker misses a 45-yard kick in the pouring rain, right? If those 2 plays flip, right, and the Jets are 4-1, you're not firing Robert Saleh because that's not fixing any of the issues right now on the Jets. The issue is the offensive coordinator is horrible. Let's go back and remember when he was hired 2 years ago. Robert Saleh came out on the radio and said, we are sticking with Nathaniel Hackett, and he's going to be our offensive coordinator no matter who's the quarterback of the Jets. Now, I know that it was a tactic to get Aaron Rodgers here. I totally get that. But they're trying to spin it as if the Jets did this awesome thing and brought in an offensive coordinator. No, they didn't. They interviewed at least 2 or 3 other guys to bring him in, and they accepted positions elsewhere. So Nathaniel Hackett was the last resort to bring in for the Jets. Now, if you're Robert Saleh, right, 2 years ago, you just fired Mike LaFleur, or Matt LaFleur, I can't remember the name. You fired your offensive coordinator. What, were you going to fire 2 offensive coordinators in one regime? That's ridiculous. You can't do that. So that's why that 2 offensive coordinators in 4 years.
No. But here's the issue, and I think we're gonna go back and forth a little bit on this here. Pull this way a little bit.
Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, there you go. Get you in here. But let me see if I can paint a picture for you.
Sure.
Because here's how I think it went down. Is the Jets going into this game 2-2, going over to London, where Ambassador Johnson has a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And he goes over there, and he really wanted to win.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't get a win, so he was upset.
He's got that billionaire ego.
So he was upset. Now Rodgers can say whatever he wants. Woody Johnson can say whatever they want. But the truth of it is, and I'll die on this hill without knowing that I'm knowing the truth. What happened was Aaron Rodgers found out that Saleh was going to fire Hackett. Before that could happen, he talked to Woody Johnson and said, Woody Johnson, hey, Mr. Johnson, just letting you know, if you fire my buddy Hackett here, I'm gone. Don't expect anything else. It's over. You can't fire my guy. He's my guy. I brought him in. He's my guy. Saleh didn't want him. Nobody wanted him.
Right.
He was a disgraced head coach who had the worst, people were saying the worst head coach in NFL history.
Yep.
The only offense he was ever good in was the one he had in Green Bay under Rodgers, and he's friends with Rodgers.
He wasn't even calling plays. Rodgers was changing the call.
So what I truly believe happened was Rodgers made that call to Johnson, or Johnson maybe called him. Maybe he did call him and said, hey, listen, just going over things, what's going on? Hey, I hear you're about to fire Hackett. I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, we are? And then Woody Johnson probably called Saleh and said, yeah, I got to get rid of him. The offense is the problem. Our defense is holding teams. This week, without that one
pick six?
Yeah, without the pick six, they only let up 16 points. They're not letting up much. It's not a defensive issue with this team, even though they don't have much of a pass rush, even though they haven't played as up to potential as they probably could, they're still not a bad defense. And it's not the defense's fault they're losing. Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 picks is the reason they're losing. And yeah, he needs to play better, but it's clearly the play calling as well. And when you were going to take the play calling, what they were actually going to do is take the play calling away from Hackett.
They're going to give it to Todd Downing, I believe.
Whoever. They had to give it to somebody else because they clearly didn't want Hackett anymore. He's awful. And he is the reason this team, in my opinion, is tanking the way it is. So what Mr. Johnson did, or Mr. Ambassador Johnson did, is he said, well, the team's either going to blow up or I could just get rid of the coach and hope the team rallies around everybody else. And so I think they got rid of Saleh. He made the move to say, I'm going to get rid of Saleh rather than getting rid of Hackett and by means getting rid of Rodgers too. He says, okay, I'm going to appease Rodgers one more time. We're going to keep Hackett, keep him in his role as offensive coordinator, calling the plays. I'll get rid of Saleh. I'll up the defensive guy to be our head coach. And as long as Aaron and the rest of the boys all rally around him, that's the key. But the problem is, and you say, where did that fire from Saleh go? Where I think it went is I think he had it this whole time, but I think he's been neutered. He's at his ball, like he has no balls. He has nothing because everything runs through Rodgers. And if it's not Rodgers, then and he pitches a bitch about it. Again, he's on trips to Egypt. He's not showing up to OTAs. He's not doing this, not doing that. And then all of a sudden shows up. He's throwing 4 picks in week 5, and yet they're firing the head coach. Yeah. No, to me, this is they neutered him. So they took all the energy out of him because once you stop being able to give him control. He no longer who's going to have fire and passion when you no longer have the control that you had? And then on top of that, what they did, and where I think it really broke, where I think he actually should have been fired, is whatever week it was. I think it was during a win, maybe week 2. I want to say when Rodgers was coming to the sideline.
It was week 3, Monday Night Football.
What? That's it.
Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. So week 3, he comes running like Saleh's all pumped. Goes in to give Rodgers a hug, enthusiastic. And Rodgers says, get the F off of me.
Yeah.
And that to me is where he went, what? Like, we just, like, this is, like, and I think it just sucked the life out of him. And from that point on, what energy was he going to have? Because any enthusiasm he shows, Rodgers is just shoving it back in his face. He's not actually embracing it. They never showed kumbaya. They talked about it. I heard Rodgers on McAfee today talking about, oh no, I still think of it like we still have a close relationship. He's full of shit. You just got the guy canned. In my opinion, he is the sole reason Saleh's not there. Because at 2-3, with a shot to be, even at 2-3, to have a shot at the top of the division this week against Buffalo, why would you fire your coach when your coach is on the verge of possibly being the number 1 team in the division? What sense does that make unless somebody else made that call? And I think the call was he was going to demote Hackett, and Rodgers says the F you are. It's my show. Which
leads me to say that this team is backwards because who on earth is going to want to come here once Rodgers is gone? Mm-hmm. Okay? Once he's gone. You got to find an offensive coordinator. You got to find a head coach. Who's going to want to come here knowing that there's someone above you that isn't afraid and is unapologetically going to do whatever he wants?
But how much longer are you going to... Because Rodgers is only on contract through this year, right?
No, you have him this year and next year.
Is it that much? Wow.
I think that's what the contract breaks down to. I'm
going to look it up real quick.
Yeah.
But even still, so... I got to think then you move on from Rodgers. I think at the end of this year, because this was do or die to me. This was big. This was it. Hey, listen, they put all their chips in that basket, and when you do that and you say you're all in, if it doesn't work, I'm sorry that I'm not going all in again with Rodgers at 43, playing like a bottom 15 QB. And thinking that we're going to be Super Bowl bound. He hasn't shown one inkling of being the old Rodgers yet. But that's the problem.
That's what, like, it blows my mind because you look at everything that the Jets did on offense in the offseason this year, and they improved in every category. Yet the Jets now, with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, you have Mike Williams as your number 2. Alan Lazard finally decides to start playing football because his buddy's not hurt this year. You pick up 2 or 3 free agent offensive linemen and you trade for one. You pick up one in the draft and you're thinking, wow, this team's looking all right. And they're still playing like Zach Wilson's the quarterback, Michael Carter's running the ball, and that comes down to the mentality and what a lot of players on the Jets were talking about, which is accountability. There's none. And the way that Robert Saleh's always coached was that he wanted to be a player's coach, right? He didn't want to yell at anybody because they're grown-ass men. You know, they got families, and you're not going to yell at people like that. But this team is yearning for someone to hold them accountable when you mess up. No one wants to be made an ass out of when you're in the film room. And no one wants to, you know, when the camera's on you and the coach is in your grill, nobody wants to see that. But there was nothing. There was nothing from Saleh. And you would think, right? Like after all this time, with the same vanilla, same nothing, no motion, run, pass, first, second, third down, you would think that Robert Saleh would say something in the middle of the game, but he doesn't. Whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. I'm not on the sideline. But from the way that the game's being carried out,
but I gotta think that's Rodgers, though. Like, the way the game's carried out, their game plan, you can't tell me that Saleh went into this year with Breece Hall, and especially with the way Allen started the season running the ball, Braylon Allen, that they're a team that should be throwing it 50 times a game, 42 times a game, 40 times a game. Why are they that? They should be running 30, passing 20. Like, yeah. Rodgers shouldn't be eclipsing 30 attempts a game. And if you are, that's an issue, in my opinion. You need to be running when you have an older quarterback who's on the tail end of his career, how you get longevity out of that is a good run game, because that takes the pressure off of him. If you run the ball well and then they have to start stacking the box against the run, that's what opens things up for Garrett Wilson. That's what opens things up for Mike Wilson. That's what opens things up for even Alan Lazard, who I don't know why, but he's like second on the team in targets or first on the team.
He's lighting it up. It's crazy.
It's awful. But again, it's all because it's Rodgers' buddy. And if you're is this the New York Jets or the New York Rodgers?
Hey, well, listen,
and that's the problem, is that they've never coalesced as a team. So I'm hoping that maybe under this new coach they can coalesce as a team, but they really haven't done that. And they've, like I said, when your defense is going out there and allowing less than 20 points a week, and yet you're still losing games, you can't fire the head coach, in my opinion. You have to get rid of the offensive coordinator. You have to, because you have to have a different play call. You can't look at this team and tell me that it is smart for them to be throwing 40 to 50 times a game. It makes no sense, especially when you supposedly have a really good running back, a top 10 running back, and then another guy who you guys just drafted who's amazing as well. You have weapons to use in the backfield, and you're not using them. And the other problem is it's like a runner like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry does nothing on 10 carries. You give Derrick Henry 20 carries, 25 carries, he's a beast. It's a difference. You have to get these guys into a rhythm. You have to get them hitting. You have to get them wearing down defenses, because that's what Derrick Henry does. You feed him early, and then guess what? That wears the defense down late, and that's when he finds his holes and he makes you pay. That's what the Jets should be doing. Why aren't they doing it? So I'm going to pose that question to you, because even with the new head coach, how do they get a new offensive philosophy without any kind of change in the offensive scheme whatsoever? And I'm saying no change because if you still have Hackett and Rodgers, I don't see it changing.
Yeah, but to go back to what you were saying initially, the Jets' offense has been this bad for years. It wasn't just like a Rodgers is the quarterback and now the offense isn't good. Like they've been bad for as long as Robert Saleh has been a coach for the Jets. And when you don't hold your team accountable, you go 2-14, then you go 6-10, and then you go 7-10. And you're just mediocre, but you put out awesome clips on one Jets drive in the offseason, and you get new uniforms and everything's great. But what I think Jeff Ulbrich does is brings a new identity, an FU mentality of I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to coach with you, but I'm your coach and you're going to listen, something that they haven't had, right?
But is Rodgers going to listen? Or is Rodgers still an island unto himself and he's going to preach to everybody else? Because that's the problem, is when you have a message, when you're a coach like that and you have a message that is, you listen to me, this is it, we're going this way now, and everybody's going to get on board. If you have one guy like Rodgers who's not willing to get on board, he could one bad apple, could spoil a whole bunch. He could derail the train, and that's my biggest worry for the Jets going forward, because I think in the short term, they may have some early success under Ulbrich, but in the long term, I don't see it making much of a difference, because without the offensive change, without a different offensive philosophy, how does this team improve? And that's where, you could tell me the rah-rahness of Ulbrich. You could tell me, I need to hear how this team improves without making any offensive changes. You have to change something. And that's where I worry.
Yeah, well, I mean, there definitely needs to be changes, but what are you going to... You got to get a new an interim offensive coordinator along with the interim head coach in an all-in year. Doesn't make any sense.
No, but I mean, I think the idea of maybe demoting him and pulling up the guy, to Doubting or whatever his name is, to be the offensive play caller, having a different voice there in Rodgers' ear. And I think that's what Rodgers doesn't like, is he wants his voice and that's it.
So then what? If Jeff Ulbrich does that, if Jeff Ulbrich says that, like, hey, like, we're demoting Nathaniel Hackett, and Aaron Rodgers goes, well, then I'm out of here. Is Woody Johnson going to fire Jeff Ulbrich too and find another interim head coach?
I think at that point it's just a straight dumpster fire. I think you just toss the matches and walk away.
Yeah,
there's nothing else you could do there at that point. But that's where I think the team in the short term is going to coalesce around Ulbrich. I think you're going to see positive things out of Rodgers for the first week or two. But I still worry when you have a run game like this. Why are they actively refusing to use the run game that should be the strength of this team?
That I can't answer.
When we talked in the a couple months ago, you preached to me Breece Hall was the man this season.
Yeah.
Best offensive player in the league. You honestly thought he was going to win an MVP.
I said that. It's on the record. How
do they get back to that? Because, again, he can be that good. So the Jets' run game can be that good. And to me, the Jets are a team that, if you look at it, their identity to me is run the ball, play good defense. They've been a defensive-first team since
a long time.
Well, at least through the Rex Ryan days.
Yeah.
They've been defense-first. They've been a defensive unit. And again, I look back even to when they had, Curtis Martin years ago and stuff like they could be a run-first team. Certain teams, the Browns should be a run-first team. The Bears should be a run-first team. Run the ball and play defense. That's what Pittsburgh does. Pittsburgh stays in their identity. Regardless of who's the quarterback, regardless of who, Tomlin knows the identity of this team is a strong defense and running the football, keeping games close, making sure that they, time of possession's key, those things. And when you do that, and if the Jets got back to doing that, I think they can skyrocket because they have a defense that can play with most teams. They have a top 10 defense, in my opinion. They have the offensive weapons to be able to not only run the ball, keep possession, but also in close games, that's when you save Rodgers for. Yeah. Is when the game is close and on the line in the fourth quarter. That's when you open Rodgers in the offense up. That's when you need him throwing the ball 10, 12 times on a drive. You don't need that in the first quarter, second quarter of a game. And I look at this Jets team, and they're a team, to me, that
just improperly coached.
So much potential. But yes, and so that's where we agree that Saleh wasn't the guy. But I think firing him in season, which, by the way, the first time in Jets history
that's
ever fired a coach in season. They've never done it because, again, it's not something that really a lot of teams do. You should at least let the coach finish out the season.
Adam Gase finished the season.
Exactly.
Rich Kotite.
No, Adam Gase was the worst of the bunch.
Finished this season.
Adam Gase was the worst of the bunch. Yeah, I honestly think he was worse than Saleh. But Saleh, to me, was a guy who had to go, but he had to go at the end of the year. I think by doing this, it disrupts the team, like you said. In the short term, gives them a boost. In the long term, like you pointed out earlier, no interim coach has ever won in the playoffs. So I don't know if that's going to happen here. I think you're going to get, and possibly this week, I was talking with one of my co-hosts yesterday, Joey. He believes that the Jets could actually win this week because of the coaching change, because they think they're going to get some momentum and be able to beat Buffalo. If that's the case, they're going to be in first in the division.
Yeah.
And it's going to look really good. But I still worry for the latter half of the year.
Yes. And again, tailing off of what you said, take a look at Antonio Pierce. What was it, last year? Mm-hmm. When he got that head coaching gig for like 3 or 4 weeks, the Raiders were ripping.
Yeah.
Because all of those cats on the Raiders rally behind Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Right? And from what I can see with the Jets team, they rally behind Jeff Ulbrich. Again, going back to what you were saying, how could the Jets change their identity? I say this every week. Every week after a game, what the Jets should do. Oh, yeah, cool. I'll take a sip. What the Jets should do, which is an unstoppable format. There's no way that you can be successful as a defense in this. You go 20 personnel. You line up Aaron Rodgers in shotgun. You have Breece Hall on the left. You have Braylon Allen on the right. You have Mike Williams on the numbers, you have Garrett Wilson on the numbers, and you have Alan Lazard in the flat. You cannot line up properly to that formation. And if you're not going to listen to the offensive coordinator before. Line up in that and literally don't listen to him now. Just run zone left, zone right, slant on the backside. Do it. You have the guys to do it. If you want to stack the box because Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are Mack trucks coming down, then you throw the quick slant. If they're going to play off because you have you don't have a receiver that can take the top off because they haven't proved it yet, but you got two good wide receivers on the outside, they're going to play off, then you hand the ball up the middle. There's no way that you can line up and play that offense properly. But again, it's just every week. Like, a good example for you of how the play calling and the offensive, scheme is bananas was when the Jets were playing the Broncos. I was at that game. It was the worst. We kept...
By the way, I thought of you too because it was raining. It was crappy weather. It was like, I'm like, he's sitting there. And then not only that, but I think, was that week 3, week 2?
4.
Week 4. Okay. That was the week 2 that a lot of people got knocked out of the suicide pool with that pick too.
I got knocked out of my pool that week.
Because a lot of people were like, "Oh, rookie QB coming, good Jets defense. Rodgers should be able to take care of this one at home. They're not a very good Broncos team."
Yeah.
And I thought about you that whole game because as it's going on, I'm like, they lose 10-0. He's gonna be so pissed leaving there.
Dude.
Like, he's gonna be in such a foul mood leaving there because like, what a miserable way. Like, you could justify it if they found a way to kick that late field goal, win, whatever. Like, you could walk out of there going, all right, we squeaked one out. I feel good. You couldn't feel good leaving that game.
Yeah, so we got there. We set up the tent. We got the grill out. We were grilling at 8:50. We kept checking the forecast. It's like 9 o'clock. And it's like, rain will stop in an hour. And then 10 o'clock, rain will stop in an hour. And it kept on getting pushed back. And then it was, 6 o'clock and I got home from the game.
It's Dad, by the way. So shout out to my uncle in the chat who sent me a message saying that the Jets need to have a split backfield with Hall and Allen. I agree. Allen's shown that he could be a positive force for this team, and they could be a scary team if they ran the ball and played good defense. I just don't know why.
But again, I want to go back to what, because this ties into what you were saying. When the Jets were playing the Broncos. It was 1st and goal from the 3. Run the ball up the middle with Breece Hall. He doesn't get it. Listen, I'm not going to kill him because he doesn't get 1 yard on one play. The second play, they brought in Solomon frickin' Thomas as the fullback. And they ran Solomon Thomas as a fullback. They ran ISO. They didn't get it. 3rd down, they leaked Solomon Thomas to the flat. Okay, there were 2 routes on that play. Solomon Thomas, who's the offset fullback, leaks out into the flat. Braylon Allen is the one who cut blocks the D end. And the backside tight end leaks out to the back pylon. That's what the Jets are drawing up. Like, if you're the Ravens right now, and you're inside the 5, and you've got a tank like Derrick Henry, I don't give a shit if you know that I'm going to run the football. Because I am, and it's big on big. I'm better than you. I'm going to score a touchdown. But the Jets just try to pull out these circus tricks that, again, will look good on ESPN, and you could talk about it in the presser after the game. And when they come out with their weekly stuff and they put it out on Tuesday or Wednesday nights, it'll look great. But that's just not fixing the issue with the offense. And going back, because I agree with you, Nathaniel Hackett being anywhere near that offense just is never going to work. And you just have to pray that the defense can hold up the way they are, because I think they are really good. I mean, if you look
they're playing well.
I'll be the first to admit.
Worst week they had was week 1 against the 49ers. Other than that, listen, 24 against the Titans, 24 against the Patriots, 10 against the Broncos, and really, we're calling 16 against the Vikings because the interception return. They're really not giving up a ton of points. Week 1 was the worst. They've been getting better and better since then.
The expectation when you have Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback is if you can hold... I mean, this is what I thought.
He's been worse than Daniel Jones, and we'll get into the Giants too a little bit.
No.
But I mean, they haven't scored over 20 points yet this year.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If you have been a part of any Aaron Rodgers organization, and you can look at your defense and say you can hold the opposing team to under 3 scores, I'm gonna go win the game. Well, if you take a look at what they've done, the 2 games that they've won, they've put up over 3 scores. And the games that they didn't, they haven't. Now, I'm not going to knock them out for, 23 to 17.
But again, really, that should have been 17-16. If that pick six doesn't happen, that's 17-16 Jets.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a million things that you could do.
Yeah.
Like in that game, like if Alan Lazard can catch the football, which you get paid 4 years, $44 million to do, instead of, dropping the football, the next play is the pick six to Kyle Van Noy. But
again, that goes back to the issues we keep talking about between Hackett, Rodgers, and him playing around with his friends. Is if in the clutch situation, see, why are you looking Lazard and not Wilson? To me, they've regressed Garrett Wilson in a way, because you don't hear about him. Like, I heard about him last year. I heard about him the year before. I heard about him when every other quarterback was throwing him the ball and the plays he was making. This year, he's quiet as a mouse. You barely hear from him. They barely get the ball to Mike Williams. You don't even know if he's on the sideline some games. Now, I look at it, but yet Alan Lazard get 10, 12 looks a game. And I'm going, why? Why? And again, it goes back to there's no chance in hell that Alan Lazard should be getting 10 to 12 looks a game when they're not even running the ball that much. Why is he getting more opportunities and more touches than Breece Hall or Allen or Wilson or any of the other bigger playmakers on the team? Listen, if Alan Lazard was going to be a number 1 wide receiver in this league, he would already be a number 1 wide receiver in this league. He's been around long enough. He's not, though. And he's proven, even when he was in Green Bay, he was good but not great. He's a good receiver, not great. But you can't lean on him. And I feel like Rodgers leans on him. And he has his faith in the wrong guys, unfortunately. Has his faith in Hackett. Hackett's no good. Got his faith in Lazard. Lazard's good, but not great. I feel like his focus is shifted I guess that's the question I'm going to pose to you. How do you change? Because it really seems like the whole thing we're boiling down to is changing Aaron Rodgers' mindset. How do we get him? Because honestly, I don't believe that Hackett's honestly calling the plays. I think he goes in with a game plan, talks to Rodgers about the game plan, then Rodgers just goes in and does it. He may get some calls in his ear, but flat out that he can audible anything he wants. He can do anything he wants out there.
No, you're right.
So this is honestly a Rodgers-led offense. How do we change, or how does the front office, the coaching staff, even Ulbrich, change Rodgers' mindset to get him to be like, listen, you're still our focus, and yes, we need you, but we also need to get back on track with what we're good at, and we need to run some more. So we're going to take some passing plays out. We're going to add some run plays to the playbook this week. We're going to try to have more of a 50-50 split. At least 50-50 split. Probably should be 60-40 run pass. But if you can get them to 50-50, how do you get Rodgers' mindset to change? Because I think if they can get that to change, again, sky could be a limit for this team. I look at the next couple games. They're playing the Buffalo this week. Then they go and they're playing the Sunday night game at the Steelers. That's going to be tough. Because
That's a tough one.
And again, you look at it shouldn't be tough because they're playing Justin Fields and, an offense that's mediocre.
They score 13 points a game, but they keep winning games.
But why? Because they run the ball, they control the clock, and they play good defense. That's Mike Tomlin. That's the Steeler way of football. They may be able to hang with them because I think it's going to be a close game. Could be something. They should be able to beat a bad Patriots team. Texans, not sure. Cardinals, another winnable game. So they have some winnable games. You look at the next 5 games between the Bills, Steelers, Patriots, Texans, Cardinals. You really need them to go at least 3-2. You need them to be 500 because you need them to be at least 5-5 and then figure out the rest of the year. But I don't see how you can look at this next 5 games and tell me that if they go 2-3 or worse, that they have any chance this season.
No.
For an all-in year, too.
And that's the thing. We keep going back to it. It's an all-in year. These decisions, these conversations should have been had already, and they're not.
It was pointed out to me that Wilson got over 20 targets this past week. But Rodgers shouldn't also be throwing the ball 50 times.
Yeah, but it's also week 5. He got 20 targets. How many catches did he have?
Let's find out. So keep going with what you're saying.
So what I was saying, just, a little tidbit for you. Nico Collins was put on the IR today. So he's out for 4 weeks, and the Jets play the Texans in 4 weeks.
They still got Tank Dell, though, right? They still got Stephon Diggs, and they got Mixon back now, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, because, Nico Collins has been lighting it up. So if you can, guarantee that their number one wide receiver is out of the game, yeah, I'll take that. But all right, let's take a look here.
Box score, I guess.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, 23 targets. Lazard, though, 9. So again, Lazard got pretty much half of the amount that Garrett Wilson did. But again, Garrett Wilson, 13 catches, 101 yards, TD. He's your playmaker.
Yeah.
He's your playmaker. He caught more than half of the balls. You look at Lazard caught 4 of 9 for 34 in a TD. Again, I like the fact that they're using Conklin more, but you need more out of Allen. You need more out of Hall, and I think that's where you get it. That's where the offense is going to need to come from.
If let's take a look at this here, because we just have the New York receiving yards up from week 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Braylon Allen has 1 less reception than Mike Williams. Braylon Allen should be running north and south. He falls for 6 yards. That's not a trick. It's not cute football. He falls forward for 2-3 yards a clip. He should not have 1 less reception than the guy that you brought in to be your jump ball guy. It just makes it's Alan Lazard. He is right now, make the argument, he's a top receiver on the team, right? He's got 1 more catch than Breece Hall. And Breece Hall's supposed to be a running back out of the backfield, leak him into the flat. And I love that, again, that we're targeting Garrett Wilson, because finally,
51 attempts this week. Scroll up a little bit, because we got to check out the rushing. They ran the ball 14 times.
You can't rush the ball 14 times when you got these 2 guys in the backfield. It's inept.
I mean, just to compare to a team like Minnesota, who, to me, they don't have the backs that the Jets have. They don't have a Breece Hall. They don't have an Allen. Now, Aaron Jones isn't bad, but he's nowhere near those guys. They ran the ball combined 30 times.
Yep.
30. And I'll guarantee you, without even looking into it, Minnesota 1 time of possession.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee that. It's absolutely insane. It blows my mind, because the Jets are still in these games because of their defense.
Yes.
And with their defense, they should pretty much be in every game. But they're not winning these close ones in some ways. Like, they're I don't know. I got struggles with my own team too, which I want to get into a little bit, but I look at this team, and without a philosophy change from Rodgers, because I think you can have it with Ulbrich, you can have it with the rest of the team, they can all coalesce, but if you don't have a different mindset to get out of throwing the ball 54 times he threw the ball. 29 of 54. If he throws the ball 54 times, you're never going to win games that way.
Because you have running backs that are that good. But
and it's the same, but that's why to be honest, he's a second QB in New York right now. And that's going my team. My team sucks. The Giants, I wish they were good. They got a good win this week. You want to know why? Because they did all those things. They did all the little things. They did it despite Daniel Jones, because they had that first drive all the way down the field.
They did it despite not having Devin Singletary and Malik Neighbors out on the field.
But he found his favorite target against Slayton,
yep,
which he has the best rapport with Slayton. They were able to run the ball. Tyrone Tracy looked awesome.
Yeah, no, he looks great.
And now, was it you or was it somebody else? Somebody else was telling me before the season started they knew somebody on the Giants squad or whatever.
Oh, no, that wasn't me.
Somebody that in the Giants facility. I forget who told me that he was going to be starting by week 6. That they thought that highly of him in the locker room and stuff. And you look at it week 5, due to the injury to Singletary, and now he's getting going already.
Yeah.
To be honest, when Singletary comes back, great 1-2 punch, in my opinion. Have it be like a Gibbs / Montgomery situation the way they do in Detroit. I'm cool with that. But this kid needs to get the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker, and he's a big reason the Giants played as well as they did this weekend, but that and their defense stepped up. They have the most sacks in the league. The defensive line has really stepped up the last few weeks. They got after Geno for sure, but Rodgers has literally become the number 2 quarterback in town. And I got to ask you one more time, how does that make you feel knowing that the Jets would probably be better with Daniel Jones right now than they would be with Rodgers?
Before I get to that, I just want to say, if you play fantasy football, pick up Tyron Tracy. He is going to be...
He was gone. Yeah, by the time I looked, he was already gone.
Yeah.
Like, he was gone.
He's him, Tank Bigsby this week, they all played great. But anyway, it's... I don't know how to answer that question, really. I'm just going to shoot you straight. I don't know how to answer it because I've been, squatting down and pissing all over Daniel Jones. But, I mean, it's just a circus. I sent it to you this week. Entry of the Gladiator with the Jets. They just can't figure it out. And you look at what the Giants are doing. I mean, they're also 2-3, but you lose a game against the Cowboys, which was such a weird game.
It was a winnable game, especially because the Cowboys came in so injured.
Yeah.
They came in missing Parsons, missing a ton of guys, but yet were able to squeak out a win. Why? Because the Giants have the same problem the Jets have. You look at their losses, 6 points. They scored 3 touchdowns in week 2 against the Commanders, but because they did not have a kicker, and because our coach, Dable, who in years past, I'm going to be honest with myself, I've praised. I think he could be a good coach. I think the fact that you knew your kicker had any kind of injury.
Yeah, that was...
And you did not have a backup on the roster for the game. You have a 53-man roster. Not every one of those guys plays. You could have easily taken somebody out and brought in the guy from the practice squad who was your kicker to be able to at least kick an extra point because they scored 3 touchdowns, shanked the first extra point because they didn't have anybody who can kick, and the next 2 they went for 2 and missed. Yep. We lose 21-18. And it is embarrassing because they kicked 7 field goals. Yep. They didn't even score a touchdown. The defense was holding their own. But it's the same problem the Jets have. It's not a defensive problem. Yeah. It's an offensive problem. And the next guy to get fired is going to be Dable because they're not going to get rid of the GM. And I got to tell you, if they lose this week to the Bengals, they lose to the Eagles, they go down and they're 2-5, 2-7.
What are your next 3 games?
The next four.
I mean, Bengals are, haven't been great as of, they haven't been great all year, but they're starting to click a little bit.
They are.
The Eagles, now you got A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith back, right? Let's see what they can do, home.
And then at the Steelers. On a Monday night.
And then the Commanders are just playing unreal football, which, can we talk about that for a second? Jaden Daniels, he's playing unreal. So when you look at your first 5 games, right, you lost 28-6 to the Vikings. They're undefeated right now, the only undefeated team in the NFC. I'm not going to say, it's good to lose, but you lost to the Vikings 28-6. It happened. You lost by 3 points to one of the best teams in the NFC right now because the Commanders are clicking and Jaden Daniels is an animal.
Do you notice something about these teams clicking early though? Like the Vikings 5-0 starting early.
They're going to die.
Commanders. Not only are they going to die off though, but the thing that gets me is these are all the guys that played in the preseason. Mm-hmm. You look with the Bengals. Jamar Chase sat out. Joe Burrow didn't play. Look at the Jets. Aaron Rodgers didn't play. None of the big stars plays. You look at the teams that have had a slow start. And I've been preaching this for a while now too. That to me, it's an issue where without that practice in the preseason, without actually getting some game time and some actual reps,
live reps,
not just practice, not just scrimmaging other teams where they come to your facility, but actually getting on the field and going through the motions. Without that, I don't think the real NFL season starts till about now.
Yeah, no,
and I think you look at it this week is the Bengals struggled so bad, then this week play such a good game against the Ravens.
Yep.
Like you look at the teams and the guys that played in the preseason. You look at the Bucks started good the first couple of games. Why? Because Baker played in the preseason. You look at all the teams that you looked at that all had these upsets early in the year. The reason they had the upsets is because they were all teams. And I swear, go back and fact check me too. I'm right about this. All those teams, their guys played in the preseason at least 1 or 2 games, and some of them 3. So when they came in more ready to play, and I feel like that's the NFL now. Is these guys, especially veterans, they don't want to go through training camp.
No,
and without that, you can't tell me you're actually prepared for week 1. It takes 2 or 3 weeks of actual game reps.
Body ready.
Exactly. Before you're fully into the season. And I think that's what it is now, especially that the season's longer. They extended a game. We know it's going to go another game. They're going to get it to an 18-game season. And when they do, the first 2-3 weeks now, I think teams are throwing away. Yeah. They're being like, you know what? The first quarter of the season is just going to be us figuring ourselves out. Then we go from there. And I think
just makes no sense.
No, because at that point you get rid of the preseason.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I'm like, the Giants were a team like that. Like, they didn't play well in the preseason. They didn't like... And I look at it now, the Bengals are just getting hot now. So are the Giants going to beat this Bengals team? I don't know. Can they get after Burrow? I think so. Can they shut
the defensive
down
line that you guys got the defensive line's really good. I know Kayvon Thibodeau, didn't he get surgery today on his wrist or something like that?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he's week to week. But again, tape it up, go out there with a club if you got to.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Brian Burns is playing great. A crazy stat that I saw.
Dexter Lawrence, which, by the way, one thing that irks me a little bit about Dexter Lawrence, not even him, it's because I don't think nobody gives themselves a nickname. Like, you know, like, but whoever came up with the nickname Sexy Dexy, like, if you're a dude and you came up with that, I got some questions.
Yeah.
I got some questions, but I'm just saying, like, because to me, when I'm watching, I can't go, yeah, Sexy Dexy. Like, I can't be like, yeah, Sexy Dexy with a sack.
Have you ever said that before?
No, I don't want to talk about Sexy Dexy sacks. I don't want to do it.
I know one person that's given themselves a nickname, and that's Jamal Adams, the Prez, and that's take that. But
exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. But
I think with the way that what you were talking about, I think the NFL really is going to extend to 18 weeks, not only because you're just going to make more money, but what they want, in my opinion, they want to extend it one more week to have the Super Bowl fall the day before President's Day.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody has off, so then
that's their main goal because they want to make it a big party.
But yeah,
so I get it. But going back to the Giants real quick, this is a team though that I look at it. Are they going to beat the Bengals? I don't know. Are they going to beat the Eagles now, like you said, getting weapons back? I don't know. Going on the road at the Steelers? I don't know. Commanders have only gotten better and better since we played them last.
Yep.
Again, we were able to get after Jaden Daniels, and that's going to be the whole key. If we can get after these quarterbacks, we'll stay in games. If we can't, then I don't think we have the offensive firepower, even with when we get Malik Neighbors back, which we should be getting him back. He's only on concussion protocol, so it's not like anything crazy. But I look at it, this schedule doesn't really get any easier. I mean, they get the Panthers after those four, but like I look at it, if say they lose to the Bengals, Eagles, and they win one of either the Steelers or the Commanders, right?
Yep.
And then they beat the Panthers. So over their next 5 games, say they go 2-3.
Yep.
They're going to be 4-6. I don't know if that's then the Bucks and then the Cowboys on
4:30 slot?
Is that
the Black Friday game?
It's either Black Friday or
that's Thanksgiving.
That's
Thanksgiving.
So if it's Thanksgiving, I could see
got the Giants game on Thanksgiving. Oh man,
at 4:30 is not terrible though. Because usually if I eat before that, I can get most of the game in. I feel we're good. Catch dessert somewhere around halftime.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I'm going, well, even still, then you go back. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know how. Maybe they get the Bucks at home. They can play well. But I look at it, if they somehow can't beat the Bengals, like say they lose the next 4 going into the Panthers game, I think maybe Dable keeps his job. But I got to think he's the next coach out. Like even before Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys, before anybody else I can think of, I think Dable, now that Salah's actually gotten canned, is the hottest seat in the NFL right now. Maybe you tell me I'm wrong. Maybe you can think of another coach out there that's on a hotter seat. But I don't know anybody else. And especially if they can't win, say they lose those 4 in a row and they go in and they're going to be 2-7. Like even with a win, they're 3-7. I don't know how you go into Thanksgiving with Dable as the coach, continuing. And I'm a guy who likes Dable. I don't want to see him gone. Like I want it to work out. I like the package when they brought in the GM and the coach from the same regime. I like the fact that they have synergy and that they had an idea and then they, what I don't like, and the worst move they made was re-signing Daniel Jones. They should have re-signed Barkley, got rid of Jones, it would have set them up better. Instead, they went the other way, which is okay, but now we're screwed because, to be honest, Daniel Jones we know isn't the answer long term. And we're either going to have to re-up him for another 2 years of 40-something million a year,
I think
Or-
you can get out.
We can get out after this year.
Yep.
The thing is, if we get out after this year, I'm going to tell you flat out, I don't love the quarterback class in the college right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I think there's a couple guys. Maybe if you had a guy like Sanders or Milroe or something, that guy with some legs that maybe Dable could work with, maybe. But I don't love them spending such a high pick on it.
yeah.
Everybody laughs at me and they tell me that I know I'm just a homer with this, but I'm telling you, I think the Giants, if it doesn't work out this year, they're probably still going to have to re-up Daniels. But what I'm going to do in 2026, regardless, I'm trading up and I'm getting Arch Manning.
I know so many
laugh at
Giants
that, and
fans that say the same
They
thing.
say that, but I'm telling you, the pedigree means something. People don't think it does. This kid has been coached by some of the best, not just his uncles,
And not his family.
not just his uncles, but also his grandfather. Like, there is a track record of generations now of Mannings who have come in and been well in the league, and
Of
he actually
success.
looks like one that has a little bit of legs to him too.
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
more mobile than the rest of them. So I mean, to me, I look at it as a guy who a family that's had success.
Yep.
He's been around it. He there's something to knowing the industry too, because you don't fall into some of the pitfalls that some guys do.
Yeah.
Like, I think regardless of where he goes, and I think the Mannings are going to have a say on where he goes, because they had a say on where Eli went.
Yeah, Eli.
He got drafted by the Chargers and ended up with the Giants. You know what I mean? Like, because they were like, no, I'm not even putting the hat on. Like, we're not staying here very long. Don't worry, we can stay on the stage and they'll give me a New Jersey and hat. But and I think that they're going to have a say in what happens, and I look at it as, you want a guy who's probably going to be a guy you're going to have for the next 10 years, a guy who's generational. To me, that's the guy, because when you see he's already doing in Texas, he's in as a backup. But what I love too is him as a backup. And I don't know if you agree. I love his team mentality, that he's not sitting there clamoring, saying, "I'm going to hit the portal if I don't get playing time." He's not sitting there saying like, "Oh, woe is me. I'm a Manning. I should be playing." No. Quinn Ewers was here. Quinn Ewers, this is his team.
Yep.
I'm cool playing my role until it's my time.
Yep.
And that's what happened. So then Ewers got hurt, and he was able to step in, and he's shown he's been pretty damn good. But at the same time, he never forced his way in. He never played that card of, I'm a somebody, and you need to treat me that way, or I'm out. Like, he's like, no, I'm here and I'm a part of this team. I want to be here with this team. I love the team mentality that he has too.
Yeah.
So on top of the ability, but I know we're getting way off base here with
we're
all this
getting
stuff. But I look at it and I got to think though, running it back to Dable, is there another coach out there you can think of? Now I've given you a little bit of time that you can think of, maybe Mike McCarthy, but outside of that, who's on the hot seat?
I mean, if Cincinnati doesn't turn it around, I know that they played an awesome game. They put up 38 points, but they still lost last week. If they don't start to turn that ship around, I mean, I'm also seeing Nick Sirianni could be on the hot seat, with Philly, and
Oh, well, if they underperform this year, I mean, right now they're 2-2. If they underperform, he's gone. He's 100% gone, because you can't have the talent that team has and keep him around.
And I'm also seeing that Chicago might be looking, which doesn't make much sense to me.
They're going to do what they did, the same thing they did to Bryce Young, and they're going to screw him. Because you look at Bryce Young. Bryce Young got benched this year. Why? Because he's had multiple head coaches, multiple offensive coordinators. He's a young kid coming in the league, had no offensive line, no running game, because they traded away CMAC, CMC. With all of that, how can this guy ever succeed? So he didn't. He got benched, and Dalton got put in, who's got more experience in the league.
He's reliable.
A little more reliable right now. Although I don't think he has. So what I think, and it's the same with the Bears here. They're blaming the struggles on, and even though they're 3-2, they're still, like you said, they're blaming the struggles on the coach. But to me, it's not the coach. And the worst thing you can do with a young quarterback is keep firing the head coach, because then you're going to get a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator, and that doesn't do the kid any good.
It messes him up more than you're going to help him, because he's learning two playbooks.
Not only that, but then he's got 3 different systems. So he went from his college system to the pro system, now a second pro system.
Yep.
And you as good as you are and as talented as you are, still, that's so much new information that you have to take in, learn, try to implement, do. It's a lot for a young kid. What the kid needs is stability. What every young quarterback needs is a team that's not going to give up on him. A team that's going to either stick with him or do what they did with Love. Bench him for a year. Let him learn and then put him in. And now you see what Love can do. You do that with certain guys. Like, not every guy comes in the league. Peyton Manning came in the league, was 3-13 his first year. Yep. You can't get down on guys early because that's the worst thing you can do is keep the turnover happening. You have to keep consistency with a young team and a young quarterback because the more consistency you have, the better it's going to be long-term for them.
Right.
And that's where I look at it with the Bears. That would be the worst thing the Bears could possibly do. Absolutely, is fire the head coach. Because if they fire the head coach, where do they go from there? And how does that set up Caleb Williams? And this is another organization. They've never, I dare anybody out there to name me a quarterback that the Bears have ever developed. They've never have drafted and developed a quarterback. The Browns have never drafted and developed a quarterback. The Panthers never drafted and developed a quarterback. There's certain teams, the Jets, honestly, really, outside of Joe Willie Namath, I don't think they've ever really drafted and developed a quarterback.
I mean, Chad Pennington you drafted, he was all right, but he just dealt with injuries.
He was all right.
He was all right. But
I mean, Sanchinator had a couple of years there before the butt fumble.
Yeah, it took us to the playoffs, you know.
But that's where, like, you had a little bit of, but nobody you can ever look at and say, man, that's a Hall of Famer. Outside of Namath, he's the only guy that on the Jets roster you could look at and say, he brought us a title. He brought us, like, that.
Yeah,
you know?
but they were playing football. They didn't have colored TV at that time. You know what I mean? Like, I would like to see one.
But that's what I mean. So they're on that list, too, of teams that just don't develop quarterbacks well. But what they do is they play defense and they run the ball. Yep. Do those things, and you could still be a successful team. The Bears need to just realize, do that. DeAndre Swift, they got him going the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And it's made a difference for that team. It makes a difference for everybody offensively and defensively. If you can run the football and control the clock, it keeps your defense off the field so that they're fresher when they do come in. It keeps your offense humming because then if you have long, sustained drives, it just makes you feel good about everything.
Yep.
And that's the one thing where it would derail everything they're trying to do with Caleb Williams if they did that, in my opinion.
Last team that I can think of that could be looking for a new head coach is the Jaguars. And
they've been bad this year.
They've been bad. They have. But you look at the stretch of games that they have.
Especially after giving Lawrence $55 million. I still think the market's going to correct themselves on QBs.
It's going to have to because like the number can't keep going up. It can't. Like, no. He's not worth this contract.
No.
He's a good quarterback. He's, in my opinion, he's not a great quarterback. I can think of 4 other quarterbacks in the AFC that are better than him. He should not be making $55 million a year over 5 years. But you take a look at the Jaguars, you take a look at the Bears, you take a look at the Bengals, the Eagles, and who was the last team we said? Let me take a look. You got those teams.
Giants?
The Giants, right? You got those 5 teams, right? If you like, this comes back to the Jets. Who's going to want to come to the Jets if you've got to deal with that headache with Aaron Rodgers when, you know, you could go.
You're not getting Belichick to come coach him. I can tell you that.
Nah, dude, you're better off, you know, stacking pennies to the moon. But, you know, if you're a head coach, all right, you could go play for Jacksonville. You could coach Trevor Lawrence. You can make that work. Oh, you're a head coach. You can come in and walk into a Joe Burrow system with Jamar Chase. Not bad. Oh, you're a head coach. You get to develop one of the most generational talented quarterbacks, which I hate that phrase, but the generational talent of this draft in Caleb Williams. You could do that? Sure. Yeah, I'll go there. And for the other 2 teams that we talked about, Philadelphia, your quarterback could be Jalen Hurts. Who on earth is going to take the job with the Jets? You'd be stupid. And I hate to say that because I love them. I love the Jets. I will die on the hill. I love the Jets. But why would you take that job?
So let me ask you then, which job are you taking? Because we're clearly sitting here and mainly talking about 2 teams tonight, the Jets and the Giants. Which team in New York are you going to pick to go to? Because you look at it, the Jets, yeah, you got a headache with Rodgers, but he's only there short term. So then you're going to have to either develop a new quarterback or get a quarterback, but the rest of the pieces are there. Defense is good, running game is there. You got Wilson, you got pieces. And it's kind of the same on the Giants side. You got a good defense. You got pieces there. You have a Malik Neighbors. You're going to see what you have in Tracy. You're going to, there's something there. but which one is more appealing? Like, where would you, if we take our fandom out of it a little bit,
Right, yeah. Now, fandom out of the question.
Which team is actually the more appealing team to coach? Because they're in the same city, so you can't use the cities against each other. You can't say one's warmer than the other or anything like that. You're living in New York or Jersey or wherever. Both teams have good defenses.
Yep.
Both teams have talent on the offensive side of the ball. The one difference is, one, you have a headache with Daniel Jones, who hasn't lived up to the hype or contract. And the other one, you have Aaron Rodgers. So both have QB issues.
Yep.
Both are going to be probably looking for new QBs within the next year. Well, 2 years, because like you pointed out, Rodgers they have through next year.
Yeah.
After that is when he'll be a free agent. I don't know if they're going to extend him past that, to be honest with you. I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. I really don't.
So I think next year is really it. So, and then Daniel Jones may have either just this year or 2 years left. So it's a very short window with the quarterback in both situations. It's a coin flip, in my opinion. Like, it almost goes to, like, which ownership you have more, or GM and, like, the rest of the upper management you have faith in, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it comes down to, what upper management you think has the better regime. I just sat here and laid a dud on the Jets, so I probably wouldn't pick them. I mean, also draft position, that plays a role. But I think...
It could be similar.
They could be similar.
But to me, I'm a guy who looks at draft picks. Draft picks are only useful to teams who know how to use them. So you can have a number one pick, but if your team is the Cleveland Browns, I have zero faith that that's actually a number one pick, because they've never been able to pick anybody good in their entire life.
The Jets have no idea how to develop draft picks either.
Outside of Myles Garrett, when was the last time the Browns drafted anybody that was halfway decent? Like, it's been a while. Maybe Chubb, but then Chubb's had another knee injury. Like, they don't draft really well, the Browns.
Is he coming back?
He is coming back, but I don't know if it's this week, next week.
Yeah.
Got to wait and see. But, like, they're,
Jets don't know how to draft. They drafted a kid in the third round, Malachi Corley. He was a healthy scratch last week.
That's what I mean. Like, the Giants drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall. And even Saquon at number 2 was really high. They haven't had that. Like, some teams, though, can't miss with drafts. You look at the Packers. You can't really miss. They draft quarterbacks. Doesn't matter where. They work out. You look at other teams. They draft
Steelers.
The Steelers. I mean, what Belichick used to be able to do with New England. He'd draft players. They'd come in. They'd play. They played great for years.
They weren't Showtime players, but they were good football players.
Exactly. And it's that there are certain teams who just use it, regardless of where they are in the draft. They just pick better than other teams. Right. Like, they have, whether it's their scouting, whether it's whatever, but it almost looks historically, too, with some of these teams. So, like, I don't know what it is, but they just tend to get the better talent. And that's where, so when you talk about, who's going to have the better draft stock, to me, I honestly don't care about draft stock, because it's all about which team has the pick. If the wrong team has it, I don't care what they do with it. Whatever they do is going to fail.
The one reason why I care about draft stock, and again, I'll always tie it back to the Jets. Devontae Adams is looking to get out of there in Vegas. And the Jets...
That would be the ultimate Rodgers move, though. If he were able to talk Woody Johnson in the front office into trading for Devontae.
But at this point, right, you've made your bed. You dug your feet in the sand. You have to fully commit. You can't back out now. You have to go, like you said, like we've been saying, all in on this, right? And whether it's a Rodgers move or not, Devontae Adams is a top wide receiver in the NFL. And although doesn't fix the offensive miscues, makes the team better. You're telling me you can have Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 2? You want to see him burn corners, diner toast? That's how you're going to do it.
Another team that drafts well, your brother Bruce pointed out, Daniel, these 49ers always draft well, too. They're another team that just seem to get it right. Like, don't know why, whether it's Brock Purdy or whether it's whoever, whatever they do, they seem to get it right, and other teams don't. So, shout out to Dan in the chat.
Shout out Danny. Let's go, man.
So, and so I mean, I know we're coming towards the end here, but just to wrap up a little bit, both these teams, I mean, the Jets made their move with Salah. I think that Dable is on the hot seat now, and both of these teams could go either way still. I look at this Bills game as a big game this week.
It's huge.
And I think the Jets are going to rally around. I'm not picking the Jets because I still think that Buffalo is the better team, even though they've stumbled this year and haven't looked great either.
What is Josh Allen's status with the concussion protocol? Because
I don't know. Click on Buffalo real quick.
Because for anyone that watched
without him, he'd be...
For anyone that watched that game on Sunday, he passed out on the field for at least 2 seconds. The NFL needs to be... Let's go. Let's see. Roster. Here we go. Josh. They give you anything here?
Go up to... There should be a thing that says news. Go up. Up towards... Yeah, news.
Cool. Yeah, this is on the fly news right here. Let's see what they say.
No, I don't think there's any injury designation for him.
No, there's nothing. He passed out on the field for like 2 seconds after he hit his head on the ground. But are we only to be serious about concussion protocol when it's Tua? Like, if you're going to be serious about it, be serious with everybody.
Maybe he passed, though. Like, that's the thing is, if he goes in the tent or in the week, if he passes the concussion test, they're not going to keep giving it to him. They're going to be like, all right, you passed.
Yeah, but I mean, how extent is this concussion test? It's just how many fingers am I holding up? Here's a smelling salt. Get back in the game, because if that's what
that's what it used to be. But no, I think there's actually what they have is there's with the iPads on the sidelines,
like Lincoln Logs.
Similar. They have what it is that before the season starts, I believe they take everybody. They give you this like iPad and you do a test. On there. And then what happens is say you get knocked in the head. They take you in the thing and they give you the same tablet and you take the same test. If you don't score either the same or
close,
or it takes you way longer to do it, then they go, whoa, you're going to give me your helmet. You're not going back out there. So I think I could be completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that they use some kind of testing method like that.
Yeah.
And if they could tell that you're not cognitive where you've been before, they will pull you at that point. So that to me tells me that Josh Allen must have passed whatever they gave him.
Yeah, he must have. So, I took that test when I was in high school playing football. It's called the impact test. And it was always the worst because we had to take that test after like a double and then go into the library or the computer lab, whatever, and you have to take this hour-and-a-half test. It was a mess. But anyway, the Jets have to absolutely come out guns blaring, firing on all cylinders.
Are you calling for a win this week? I think that's where we ended this week. Are you calling for a win this week?
I am a Jets homer through and through, so I'm going to tell you that I'm pulling for a win. I'm going to take my Jets hat off, and if you as a
Buffalo's
Jets
only
fan,
favored by 2.5.
That's a low spread for Buffalo. Maybe if you're the Jets, to save your season from going off the rails, you have to win. You have to. If you go 2-4 heading into an excellent Steelers defense on Sunday Night Football, you lose to the Bills and then you lose to the Steelers. The people are jumping ship. White flags are going up. You have to find a way. Fight, scratch, claw, dig, whatever. Find a way to get a win. Hopefully, Jeff Ulbrich will rally everybody together and people will be fired up, get that extra adrenaline rush that they've been lacking for a while, and just have passion to go play throughout the entire game. Again, Monday night. I'm actually going to that game too.
Are you?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be sick. We're going with a bunch of people, and we're gonna go. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be a great time. I'm gonna have my Jets overalls on.
I tailgate. To me, and I hope you agree. End the show on a fun note here. But to me, tailgating's half the fun of going to games.
Oh my god,
I love tailgating.
Whenever I'm tailgating, I have a big speaker. It's like this big. It's a big one, and the only music that I play, no matter who's there, what the event is, what food's out, for a football tailgate, I'm only playing like 90s and early 2000s WWE intro music. Right? So, we got Jericho, we got New Age Outlaws going, crushing Miller Lights, playing football, juking out my fiance, just can't hang.
I love it.
But yeah, man, the Jets got to figure out a way to get a win. I feel like you say it every week, but this week it's the most important game of the year. The season's on the line with this game. You have to win. You have to get to 500, and you have to be number one in the AFC East. Because if you lose this week, do you go down to fourth?
No, I don't think so, because they wouldn't drop below the Patriots. Yeah, I don't think they drop below the Patriots with this.
No, yeah, I mean, if the Patriots squeak out a win and the Jets lose again, it's all right. All implication stuff. Fuck the implication. Go out, get a win, get a convincing win, and not have to worry about if you lose who's behind us and who's ahead of us. Just go out and take care of business.
Rally around Olbert.
Olbert.
That's what you got to do. Is this team has to rally. It's the same with my Giants. My Giants have to rally. I look at it, and they're in a very similar situation with the same record, but they're actually at the bottom of the division. And they need a win in the worst way because, like I said, if they continue to lose games, Dable's the next guy on the hot seat, in my opinion. He's got to be. And I look at it, this Bengals game is going to be a very big, important game that... Actually, I didn't even mean to click that. But, yeah, no, it's going to be a very big, important game because they're 1-4. They're already beaten down. You have to continue to beat them down. Their only win is against the Carolina Panthers, which, to be honest, just about every team in the league should be beating the Carolina Panthers. They're really not a great football team right now. Can they be in the future? Maybe. Right now, they're not there. And the Giants are a better team than the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to sit here and die on that hill. I think they're a better team than the Carolina Panthers. They need to win this game. They need to find a way to get after Burrow, to stop Chase, and to win it even if it's close. This is a game they have to have because otherwise, if they sink further and further in this division, nobody expected Washington to be this good, especially this early. Nobody expected, nobody expected, to be honest, the Philly to be this bad this early. Yeah. Again, I think it's from not playing in the preseason. I think they're going to get their legs, find their legs, and I think they're going to be just fine. And I still think the Cowboys are a good team. So if the Giants lose another game this week to a non-division opponent, teams are
going up. You got to catch up.
Because then again, we've already lost one to the Cowboys. We've already lost one to the Redskins. We're 0-2 in the division. If you continue down that road, we already talked about you got the Cowboys on the next game on Thanksgiving. That's always a tough Thanksgiving Day game.
Yep.
They have Washington again coming up. They got the Eagles coming up. If they don't start winning these non-division games, I don't know how many they're going to win in division this year.
Right.
So this is huge. And yeah, the whole rest of the season, I mean, I hope we get to talk again, maybe another third of the way through the season, maybe week 12 or something, we'll set something up, come back, revisit, because by then maybe both our teams are either taking off or tanking. Who knows? But both can go either way. And I guess that's the excitement of football, right? Yeah. And either way, to be honest, sometimes going to games when the team is like, is just as fun as going when they're great because I don't know.
You don't know what to expect.
Exactly. So I just I love it. I love the fact you go to the games, you're involved, you're enthusiastic about it because I love going to games too. It's one of the best things out there, to be honest. Live sports, whether it's, to be honest, I think the two best live sports are football, but I think the best live sport is hockey. Hockey just started, but I love hockey live.
Yeah.
Like, I can watch hockey on TV, but I prefer it, like, to go to Prudential, to go to the Garden,
go wherever. Going when you score a goal.
Well, plus, it's just like, it just, the game, I could feel it better. I could watch it better. I could see the puck moving better. Like, to me, sometimes they're on the TV, the camera's moving around. I'm like, I get distracted by this or that. When I'm there, I'm locked in. And I feel that way kind of at football games too. Like, that's kind of the like, as I've gotten older and I play more fantasy football and do stuff, it's like hard to be at the stadium because then I'm like, I'm not paying attention to what's going on. Half the time I don't even look at my phone or whatever because otherwise you can't just sit there. I'm sorry, I hate the fans that go there and just sit on their phone.
Well, you know what,
stare at their phone.
When I was there 2 weeks ago, they had fantasy scores. They had like top 5 QBs, top 5 running backs. Like anytime there was a big play, like during like commercial breaks. Like it's not going on during the game.
But you got to do it to keep people's attention. But because I got to be honest, I hate seeing all the kids or just people in general. I can't even say kids, adults do it too. Yeah. Just sitting there with their phone when the game is on right in front of you. If you wanted to just sit on your phone or you wanted to watch it on your phone, go home and watch Red Zone. Like watch Red Zone at home. Like, be there, be involved, and listen, you're there in your overalls, you're there pumped up, you're involved, and I love to see it. And that's why I love getting together and talking with you about this stuff too, because it's just awesome. Yeah. And I know you're just as passionate as I am. And to be honest, that's what fan is, right? We're fanatics. We're passionate.
Oh,
so yeah, until we meet again, I guess. I mean, so what's the next game you're going to? I guess we'll end it that way. What's the next game you're hitting up?
So I am going to Buffalo on Monday night, and then on November 17th, I think is the game. The Jets are playing the Colts Sunday Night Football. And I'm going to that one because my fiance's cousin is marrying this guy. His name's Anthony. I'll call him Tony Spice. He's a big Colts fan. So they're getting married on the 26th. They're going to their honeymoon, coming back, and then we're going to that Sunday Night Football game.
Is he a Colts fan because of Manning, or is he a Colts fan because, like, family-wise or something? And I only say that because I do know somebody who else is a Colts fan. My buddy Fife, who often calls into the show and stuff. His father, growing up, was a big Colts fan. Like he was my buddy Erich. He's a Giants fan. His brother was a Bears fan. Is still a Bears fan, and his father was a Colts fan.
Yeah.
Like, so they had an interesting dynamic in the household. But that's why I asked. So, like, was he a Manning fan, or was he a?
I think he's just always, been a huge Colts fan. I mean, Peyton Manning being there definitely helps, But I mean, he was there when Phillip Rivers was down there. He was a fan when, Joe Flacco's down there. He's a true fan of the Colts, and give him credit. Living in this area, being a Mets fan and a Colts fan, it's weird.
It definitely is. It definitely is. But yeah, speaking of that, Mets won tonight. So, I mean, big win for them. I actually want to check in on the Yankees score. I hope they're still winning as well. They're up 3-2, late top 9.
There you go.
So we got 2 on, and looks like 1 out. Maybe pull 1 more in here. I'd like to get an insurance run. That would be nice. Austin Wells up at the plate, so let's root in the Yanks. Hey. Let's root in the Mets too. Why not? Listen, the Subway Series. Hey, 24 years later.
Listen, I don't really care if the Yankees and the Mets play each other. I think that'd be awesome. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, I'm a Mets fan. I hope the Yankees are the worst team on the planet. I'm not like that.
No, I told you though, the best betting odds, and a buddy of mine on online gave me this like a week before, or like right around when the playoffs are starting, about putting a bet on the Mets and the Tigers, actually.
Yeah.
And you look at it, they're 2 teams who squeaked their way in, but they're actually 2 of the hottest teams, if not the 2 hottest teams in all of baseball the second half of the year. Yeah. So, and like this is after Detroit traded away their star pitcher. They still went on a run like this. So it is pretty wild. It's interesting to watch. I love any kind of playoffs, so playoff baseball is great. I'm glad that they structured around football a little bit so they don't go head-to-head with it. Yeah. I enjoy that. Tomorrow night I will a little bit with the Yankees playing tomorrow. I think the Mets would have played tomorrow. And I think the Dodgers, they'll play again maybe Friday, I think, after tonight.
Who's playing tomorrow night? I mean, I know the Yankees are, but for
football is it the 49ers and the Seahawks?
I think it might be.
I think it's the 49ers and the Seahawks. So
I'll take that. That's a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only problem I got is the streaming services.
Yeah.
And, but I'm just an old man and listen, I got some streaming services, but I feel like you got to have like every streaming service, because you got to have Peacock. You got to have Amazon. You got to have,
it's only a matter of time where you have Thursday Night Football on Prime. Sunday Night Football is going to be on HBO, and Monday Night Football is going to be on Peacock, and then other exclusive games will be on like Hulu or something like that. It's just the way that it's going.
That's why when the Giants aren't playing, Red Zone. Yeah. Just give me all the games. Like, I don't care what channel it's on, all the games. But yeah, great talking with you. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, last thing that I want to say. I know if Woody Johnson, you're listening to me right now, you got to figure out a way to get it done, man. Come on. I'm dying on this hill for the Jets. Please, I'm looking in the camera. I'm looking right at you. You got to find a way to turn this around and take the Jets to the Super Bowl. Please.
Do it. Do it from a man here. And until next time, you find us at Die on This Hill on on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your podcasts. You'll be able to find this podcast tomorrow. In addition, you can find me at The Living Legend on X, or you can find my beautiful pup right there, Louie, at Louie O's Dude on Instagram. I don't know if you got any socials you want to throw out there, but you can go ahead if you want to.
Hey, I got socials. I have no idea what they are, but hey, I'm all about I'm all about good conversation about sports. I love it.
And I look forward to doing it again. We need to do more of this. This was great. So thank you so much. And until next time, don't be afraid to have an opinion and die on this hill with us.